left them out there the entire time we were there. Needless to say, they picked up all kinds of sounds, most of them birds and small animals.
Just now, Mireya Mayor revealed real evidence of Bigfoot. In the ghostly moonlight, a strange, tall figure moves alongside a tranquil lake, stirring the quiet waters. Our hearts leap, fear mingling with excitement.
Every hair on my arm is straight up right now. Something has moved through here. Oh my, look at this.
This isn't the usual lakeside scene. Suddenly, everyone's gaze shifts to Ronny as a shout breaks the eerie silence, directing attention to mysterious ripples in the lake. What secrets does the lake conceal? Tune in. Let's dive deeper into what Ronny saw at the water's edge. The unseen forces of the forest. In the moon's soft light, a strange figure walks on two legs beside a calm lake, disturbing the still waters. Our hearts race with a mix of excitement and nervousness. This is not something we expect to see here. As it turns toward us, its eyes catch the moonlight, glowing an eerie, unnatural green. Suddenly, a sound breaks the quiet. It's alarmingly close. We glance at Ronny, who notices something strange. Whoa! Ronny, someone yells, pointing towards the lake. Suddenly, the water nearby ripples as if something warm moves through it. After a moment of confusion and staring into the water, someone excitedly identifies the source of the disturbance.
All of the other senses are on hyper alert. You start to hear things. That's your first clue that something is out there. Just keeping really alert is really important.
Sure enough, it's a beaver, swimming in circles and making gentle waves on the lake's surface. What started as a tense moment quickly turns into curiosity as we watch the beaver's playful moves under the moon. But just when things seem to calm down, something more surprising happens. Wait, that thing is walking on two legs, someone says, their voice a mix of surprise and unease. Seeing a creature walk on two legs here is not only rare, but incredibly interesting. The scene at the riverbank was usually peaceful, only broken by the small movements of animals like beavers. Tonight, however, was different. A strange humming noise cut through the usual quiet, disrupting the normal sounds of the night. There was a strange sound in the air. It wasn't loud, but it was constant and unsettling. Even with the best technology, like a thermal camera that can see animals in the dark, nothing unusual appeared. The camera scanned the area, only showing the usual landscape and a few busy beavers. Yet the mysterious sound continued with no clear source, adding a sense of mystery to the otherwise calm night. But this wasn't the strangest thing. Usually beavers don't make noises like this for long periods. This made it seem like something else was causing the sound. It was important to stay alert and try to figure out what was really going on.
I know that Ronny is super excited by what I described to him, and I'm excited by it too, but I'm troubled by it because I can't explain it.
As the night grew colder, something strange happened. High up in an old tree, there was a patch of warmth, even though the air around it was cool. It didn't seem right. It was as if something large had been up there, leaving behind heat that was now quickly fading. Sutton had been right. There was definitely something up there earlier, but now it was gone. Then as the warmth disappeared, the quiet night was interrupted by the sound of rustling leaves and a soft thud. Whatever had been in the tree moved away quietly, even though it seemed big. In the faint moonlight, the bushes swayed, showing where it had gone. The night felt different as the creature moved off, leaving behind a sense of curiosity and a returning chill in the air. Each day felt stranger than the last. Bryce's realization that the upside-down trees, the mountain, and the logging site formed a perfect triangle added to the oddness of it all. This wasn't just some random shape. It was nature's way of showing its patterns, much like how triangles appear in mountain ranges and volcanic craters. These shapes hinted at forces in nature, both above and below the ground, that we often overlook. As Bryce made his way back to the logging site, where all of this began, he thought about how beautiful yet strange these shapes were. The triangle wasn't out of place here. Triangles and other patterns show up all over nature, like in the honeycomb shapes made by bees or the wing designs of dragonflies. There seemed to be a bigger connection between these natural patterns and the world around him. The forest called us deeper as the day ended. exposing the secrets of the silent woods. It had been 2 weeks since the strange event that left everyone puzzled. The logging site, now quiet and still, seemed to be hiding the answers to what had happened. But Bryce couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a local mystery. He remembered how the same patterns of chaos and order can be found everywhere, from the swirling shapes of galaxies to the jagged lines of tree branches and lightning strikes. But this wasn't the only strange thing. As Bryce thought about the spirals seen in pine cones and sunflowers, following the same mathematical pattern called the Fibonacci sequence, he began to wonder if this place held a deeper connection to the natural world. Maybe the answers didn't lie just in what happened here, but in the very rules that nature follows. The same rules that shape how things grow and form. Bryce's journey back to the site wasn't just about solving a mystery. It became a deeper exploration of the patterns that nature uses everywhere. From the repeating shapes of leaves and snowflakes to the complicated yet predictable patterns of weather and ecosystems, everything seemed tied together by these hidden rules.
That they can actually transform into these orbs and go in between worlds. Whatever Mireya was seeing above this figure, it sounds a lot like orbs.
As he walked through the forest, Bryce started to feel more in tune with these patterns, as if the mysteries here were part of a much bigger puzzle, one written in the language of numbers. But this wasn't the end of it. Even though Bryce hadn't yet figured out what happened 2 weeks ago, his new understanding gave him some comfort. Maybe the chaos he witnessed was just another part of nature's grand design, following rules that humans are only beginning to understand. As he looked around, the forest no longer seemed like a silent observer. It was a part of the same mathematical beauty that shaped the entire universe. In the quiet woods, the silence feels like it's holding stories from long ago. It pushes us to pay attention to every small clue left in this mysterious place. It's strange to think that the disappearances seem to happen in certain spots, almost as if they formed a pattern on the map. This got me wondering, had we missed signs of Bigfoot? As the night took over, our journey into the unknown was only just starting. As the investigator returned to a place that hadn't been fully explored, he was greeted by a deep, eerie silence. It was the kind of quiet that felt like something big was about to happen. Every step he took seemed to make the silence heavier, almost as if the forest itself was waiting for a secret to be uncovered. The area seemed completely abandoned, with no signs of people around. Vast fields stretched out under the open sky, untouched and strangely calm.
Because you're listening to every single sound that you hear, and you're also fighting the fear in your mind of what could be creeping around the corner.
But the investigator pressed on, following a clue that suggested some personal items might have been taken toward the river. Among the towering trees of the ancient forest, the view seemed to go on forever. Each tree, with its massive trunk, added to the sense of endless space. Armed with a thermal scanner, a figure carefully scanned the riverbank. Every sweep of the scanner was filled with hope that they might find a clue or a piece of evidence that could explain the strange events in this isolated forest. As they moved along, nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first. The team decided to keep going, believing that something important would show up soon. Then the landscape opened up, offering a clearer view of the surroundings, which gave the group a small boost of hope. One of the explorers zeroed in on a particular spot. He noticed something unusual. A warm patch showed up on his equipment. It wasn't just a false alarm. This object began to move. Everyone's attention was immediately locked onto it. We walked on, the woods blurring around us, a trail of shadows and secrets. But this wasn't the most surprising part. For a moment, they caught a clearer glimpse of what they were tracking. But as quickly as it appeared, it vanished into the trees. The group felt both excited and frustrated at the same time. That brief look at something unknown only made them more eager to dig deeper into the mystery. As we continued deeper into unknown territory, there was a sense of excitement all around us. Soft whispers broke the silence as someone called us over to a brightly lit area by our equipment, pointing out a distinct heat trace. It looked like something or someone had just been there. Our eyes stayed glued to the display, watching as cooler shades shifted into warmer ones. The warm spot stood out against the colder surroundings, and it looked like it could be footprints. This set off a wave of excitement among us. But what was even stranger was the shape of the heat trace. The edges were blurry and soft, giving the whole thing a feeling like it was from another world. Curious and eager for adventure, we decided to follow the trail, hoping it would lead to something big. As we walked down the wide path, the scene around us seemed almost hidden, with tall trees forming a canopy overhead, like the roof of a grand cathedral.
There's a real sense of loss in walking away from here empty-handed, not really knowing that we can come back to it.
The air felt different, almost as if we had crossed into another world. We all felt like something important was just out of reach, waiting for us to find it. The forest had an inviting feeling in this strange part, like the trees were welcoming us in. But then, one of us gasped, and the friendly chatter stopped. There was a mix of curiosity and concern in their voice as they pointed ahead. What we found was odd. Tree branches arranged into deliberate shapes. They formed large X's, starting at the ground and climbing up the trunks about 30 feet high. They looked like giant natural barriers. We had seen similar things earlier in our journey, but this was on a much bigger scale. Even though the forest had a peaceful, majestic vibe, it felt like it was warning us about this strange and possibly dangerous area we were entering. The way the trees were arranged didn't make sense. They were bent and twisted in unusual ways as we moved downhill through the tall redwoods. And just a short distance further, everything changed suddenly. The branches were now twisted together in remarkable shapes, forming natural arches. These redwoods, which usually grew straight, were now bent and woven together as if shaped by some invisible force. It was amazing to see how these trees had been transformed into what looked like living tunnels, almost like nature itself had created something beyond the ordinary. A sudden, sharp noise broke the silence, quickly turning into a loud crash that echoed around them.
It's getting smaller and starting to disappear. Hold on. No. The bottom half is gone, and now it's just a small white circle.
That was loud, someone said, as a feeling of unease crept in. It was clear that something unusual was happening. Maybe things were being thrown, or footsteps were rushing past. Another voice cut in, mentioning that the noise seemed dangerously close. The air grew heavier with tension. Then a scream pierced the quiet, followed by a strange silence. But this wasn't the worst part. Someone using a thermal camera saw something odd on the hill above the group. "Ronny, it's right above you in the tree," came the chilling reply. The creature seemed to blend into the branches and leaves, impossible to see with the naked eye. Ronny glanced up but saw nothing, although the thermal camera showed it moving to the right. It became clear that the creature wasn't directly overhead, but further back on a ridge. As shadows lengthen and the unknown beckons, every discovery brings us closer to truths hidden in the dark mysteries in the midnight forest. Even though it was some distance away, its large size was clear. But what was even more alarming was the low growl that followed, adding to the sense of danger the group felt. Whatever was out there wasn't just strange, it might also be a threat, hidden in the dark wilderness. As they moved deeper into the woods, they felt they were close to discovering something important. Then someone spotted a strange light through the trees. The group focused, watching as a bright burst of light appeared in the distance. They were confused, unsure of where it came from. The light was oddly even, stretching horizontally through the forest. They began to wonder what could make such a strong light in the thick woods. They tried to get a better look by shining a flashlight toward it, but all they saw were more trees. Yet when they turned off the flashlight, the strange light seemed to spread across the horizon. At first, they thought it might be a reflection from a building, but there were no buildings nearby. The situation grew more puzzling. Then they noticed something even stranger, a perfectly formed bed in the middle of the forest. The ground around it was pressed down, creating a natural bed that seemed carefully made. It looked like it was designed so no one would fall off. This odd discovery added to the series of eerie and confusing things they encountered that night. It wasn't the strangest thing they'd come across that day. The ground was pressed into a bowl-like shape, a hollow that seemed like the perfect spot to lie down.
Russ, I'm hearing something to my left. I heard it again, and it's moving very quietly. I'm getting the impression that it's trying to stay hidden.
As they explored this odd space and the soft glow coming from it, They felt an overwhelming need to understand the mysterious things happening around them. The bed sheets were wrinkled, showing signs that someone or something had been there recently. This wasn't just any ordinary place to sleep. It looked more like a nest, carefully built and hidden up in the tree branches. From up there, whoever or whatever had made it could watch over everything around them. This wasn't the work of just any animal, like a deer or elk. It had to be made by something much smarter, something with a plan. Then out of nowhere, a deep growl cut through the quiet, sending fear through the group. The air felt heavy, and the sense that something was very wrong became hard to ignore. They scanned the area and found another clue, a strange, perfectly shaped mark in the mud. It was too exact to be from any animal's paw. As they thought more about it, the idea that they were being watched from above became more real. It was a scary thought. They were out in the wild, far from help, and the feeling that they might be under someone or something's watchful eye was hard to shake. The danger felt real, and they knew they were in a risky spot. Pete, feeling more anxious by the minute, spoke into the radio. "You're not going to believe this," he said, his voice shaky. He explained how, deep in the woods, he heard a loud crash that broke the silence. Right after that, there were softer noises, almost like something large was moving quickly and forcefully past him.
There are multiple huge heat signatures directly across from me. They're walking across the forest, and it almost looks like they're poking their heads around the tree.
His colleague told him to stay calm and explain everything carefully. Pete, who was good at spotting things with their special scanning tools, used the word ghost to describe the strange shapes that sometimes showed up during their scans. Usually these were just shadows or figures that messed with the readings. But as the light faded, Pete and his team knew that these strange happenings were just the start of something bigger. With each revelation, the line between the known and the mysterious blurs, drawing us deeper into the enigmatic heart of the forest. Strange forces in the woods. In the quiet, hidden parts of the forest, something strange happened right in front of Pete as he watched the output from the LiDAR system. On the screen, he could see what looked like a person moving through the thick trees. Pete, lost in thought, wondered aloud if the equipment had really picked up a person. If it had, this was a big deal, hinting at something or someone unknown, quietly making their way through the woods. Everyone stared closely as a figure briefly flashed on the screen, making them feel both surprised and a little uneasy. "This is really creepy," said one team member, their voice a mix of curiosity and nervousness. At first, the screen seemed to show a black bear wandering nearby, but then a deep, unsettling growl filled the air, making everyone feel even more unsure. Just as they were trying to make sense of it, they noticed more movement at the top of a hill. Finding something so unexpected brought a mix of excitement and fear. As the sun started to set, the group adjusted their equipment to get a better look at a small creature on the hill. At first, they thought it was just a normal animal, maybe a bear. But then it stood up like a person, leaving everyone in silent shock. The growls that followed made things even more tense, and the strange mix of human and animal features kept them glued to the screen, not knowing what to think. But that wasn't the worst part. As they focused more, a figure began to show clearly on the monitor, pulling everyone's attention. Every little movement made them lean in closer, their excitement growing. A quick adjustment to the focus showed a blur moving across the screen, which only added to their curiosity and suspense. Then a clear heat signature appeared ahead, pointing to something truly unusual. The figure moved in and out of view, never staying in sight for long.
Tonight, the game plan is we're gonna go no holds barred. We're bringing everything we have. I'm gonna be positioned by the tree structure with a thermal camera.
Each brief appearance held everyone's attention, and every once in a while, they caught the glimmer of eyes in the darkness, making them wonder even more about what was out there. Just as things were getting tense, the figure vanished again, only to reappear when they least expected it. The group stayed glued to the screen, captivated by the mysterious dance of shadows. Every new glimpse felt more amazing than the last. But just when they thought they had seen everything, the screen showed something even more surprising. As the night deepened, a shape stood tall in the darkness, barely visible against the shadows. The air around it seemed different, almost otherworldly, both fascinating and frightening. It was as if the forest itself was waiting, holding its breath, for whatever might come next. As we ponder the forest's strange encounters, do you believe in supernatural beings controlling our fate? If you enjoyed this mystery, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.